Mic check. Microphone check. So good to be here. Sorry, I'm 10 minutes late this morning. Just lost track of time. Nothing weird happened. I just absolutely lost track of time. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy hump day. We had so much energy. I came in. I had all my best hump jokes and I was killing it, and then nobody could hear me and it was devastating. Do you like that? Should we add those breath noises to the track? Did you like that? Little improv this morning. I've been up since 4:30. Didn't sleep well. How can you sleep well when you're waking up early to go on Facts Still Matters live? You know, it's like Christmas for an adult. Nothing better. For those of you who joined us this morning, I had a great time. Wish I could have stayed longer. Had to get the show going. But Facts, we got to do more of that. We need to do that a little bit more. I think. Just a thought. We'll see what Steve says. Thanks everybody for being here. Make sure if you're on TikTok, you're hitting that like button and share this with all your friends. Today, for the first time this week, we are gonna open this up to people who want to have a discussion. And then tonight at 6, we're supposed to have date night with Admir. Jen, have you confirmed that? I sure haven't. Awesome. Watch it. That's working.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. What was it confirming?
Have you confirmed with Admir?
What was it?
Have you confirmed with Admir for tonight?
I have not, but I will.
Okay.
I think that's the plan.
Okay.
So,
I guess it's on our channel anyway, so fuck him if he's not going to be there. I'm assuming Amanda's going to be there. And Amanda, thanks for doing our sources today, by the way. Amanda's going to be dropping all of our sources in the Discord, which is a reminder that if you're not a member of the Discord, everything we share on the show every single day, we share that information in those links in the Discord so that you can share them with your friends or just steal all the ideas that I stole from somebody else and make them your own show.
Thanks for the sub.
Thank you for the sub. Welcome to subscribers. So as a reminder, we do have gift goals every day. You guys know the drill on that. And TikTok, make sure you're only gifting through TikTok. Okay, that's all we want from TikTok. Just only gift through TikTok. We love TikTok Shop. It's a great and wonderful invention, and I think that it's great that so many content creators can put up ads for Gorilla Mind energy drinks. And God bless TikTok. God bless America. TikTok is America. It is foundational to the success of America and Christianity. So we love TikTok Shop. Let's jump into some polling. We're going to talk a little bit today, about the investigation of Charlie Kirk's murder. Mostly, we're going to talk about Kash Patel and his hearing, which will have some overlap with the Epstein files. And that'll be most of the show today. If we do end early, because I don't have as much stuff, then we end early. But I don't think we will. And just anybody who's here that's chirping in the comments on YouTube or Twitch or TikTok, you're welcome to come up. As always, there's a V up there next to GenDub1. That is the name you'll want to add on Discord, and then we can get you on over here and you can talk to us live on the show. Thanks, RJ. I appreciate that. Okay, I've been compromised. That's right. Let me show you some polling here from Harry Enton. That is not at all alarming. Everybody's favorite pollster. If you have your bingo cards ready, just have those set, because once the MAGA folks get here, they're going to see that CNN logo in the bottom corner, and they're going to freak the fuck out. And when they do freak the fuck out, you can mark down, oh, yeah, right, CNN on your bingo cards. So we're starting off hot today. Here's some poll numbers about Trump's administration.
Disaster for Pam Bondi, and therefore, I'm Donald Trump. I'm just going, what the heck is going on here? You know, take a look here. Weekly Google searches for free speech. Get this. up like a rocket, up 186% versus the 5-year average. I went back and looked at every single week. More folks are searching for free speech this week on Google than any week in at least 5 years. And of course, not surprisingly, who's the top trending topic with free speech? Well, it's Pam Bondi, of course. People are taking her comments, looking it up, interested in it. And as you saw from that Wall Street Journal editorial, they ain't liking it too much from the left to the right.
This also raises raises the question of what people think of any cabinet secretary any cabinet member when they get in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. What are people thinking about Pam Bondi?
Yeah.
Thanks, Swish, for the coffee bunny this morning. Appreciate it.
Okay, so Pam Bondi was already underwater, and I wouldn't be surprised if she goes underwater more. Take a look here. The net popularity of Trump cabinet members. Look who has the lowest number on your screen right here.
Somewhere, some MAGA's going to clip that out of context, and they're going to be like, they're trying to say that we should throw Pam Bondi in the sea. She's underwater and will be more underwater. That's going to get clipped. That's going to be hate speech. Someone on Twitter is going to get arrested. Actually, they're going to clip me saying that. I'm going to get arrested for saying that Pam Bondi's underwater. That's the level of hysteria that we're at now today.
That I could find. Look how far underwater Pam Bondi is at minus 19 points. Now, none of the folks on your screen here are in positive territory, but none of them are as far underwater as Pam Bondi at minus 19 points. Of course, RFK Jr. has been in the news recently, too, but he's well above where Pam Bondi is. He's at minus 7 points. She is more than 10 points more underwater than RFK Jr. is. And of course, he's made a lot of controversial comments. She is, at least by the numbers that I'm looking at, the least liked member of Donald Trump's cabinet, and it ain't even close.
Pam
It gets to
Bondi.
the difference here.
He's got his accent. His southern accent popped through there. Pam Bondi.
Gets to the focus on the topics they've been the topics they've been taking on. What is it for Bondi?
Yeah, okay. I mean, what is Pam Bondi probably most associated with before, of course, this whole free speech controversy? Well, of course, it was the Epstein files, which is something that nobody, for the most part, likes how the Trump administration has been handling them. Of course, she's been a key leadership role in this. I mean, look at this. Approve the Trump administration.
Fuck you. Who just called me? I know you didn't just call me a Ben Shapiro lookalike. That is not fair. I will affirm that all sexual partners that I've ever had did experience moisture. How dare you call me Ben Shapiro? How dare you?
The Epstein files. It's just 19.
Oh, the news anchor. Okay, fine. This is Harry Enton. Thank God. And how dare you to Harry Enton? Harry Enton is the greatest pollster in the history of the world, or he's the most entertaining.
90% of all votes, 67% disapprove. Among Democrats, it's 2%. Independents, 12%. And even among Republicans, you can't even get to 50% approval. And of course, this just goes all the way back. You're building a case step by step by step. Who is the biggest pain in the rear end in the Donald Trump administration for him? Who is he having to answer for? Oftentimes it's for Pam Bondi. The free speech situation is just another example of that. And we're just going to have to wait and see where it goes. But at this particular point, there's a reason why Pam Bondi is.
Those numbers. Look, all of those people are dog shit. All of them are dog shit. How RFK Jr. is at -7? I guess I know how. It's alarming that he's at -7. This is a guy who's just like, oh, science is bad, and I don't believe in science. And everybody goes, I can't do a good RFK. Fuck, I thought that was going to land. That was horrendous. I got to work on an RFK impression. But this is a growling former meth head, brainworm lunatic that's like mainlining colloidal silver and just banning vaccines for the fuck of it. And he's at -7. How does that happen? If you, somebody said on a podcast, or maybe it was a live the other day, and if RFK sat next to you on a bus and started talking to you about his beliefs in vaccines, you would think he was a crazy person. Then add the voice. Let's just say it was a normal voice. Add that voice. Not one person would listen to RFK. And this is just further proof that if you are famous and rich, like, people just listen to you. They just assume, like, oh, he must have got there because he's so smart. Like, we have a president with an IQ, like 2016, I'd say his IQ was 110. It's around 60 now. Doesn't make any sense ever. And people just were like, oh, you really think he's dumb? He's rich. Yeah. I think one of the great lies that society has ever told us is that rich people are smart. Generally speaking, they're just dishonest. Like the richest people, they just break the law. That's usually it. Shout out to this cartoon again, 2 days in a row. Cash Patel, shout out to claytunes.com. Check out his artwork over at claytunes.com, where you've got a friend in the cartoon business. Open Monday through Friday till 8, Saturday till 5, closed Sundays. While Trump is bragging about how great the economy is, and Republicans pretending that like things are going really well in our economy, we've got some startling news. Thanks for Mike Nellis. I think isn't he the White Guys for Harris? Is that who Mike Nellis is? Is he White Guys for Harris? Shared this clip today. This is alarming.
Right, new this morning, new data showing that credit scores are falling at the fastest pace in the U.S. since the Great Recession as Americans struggle to keep up with the rising cost of living. Let's go right to CNN's Matt Egan for this. Doesn't sound good.
Yeah, no, John, it's not. It's more evidence that some Americans, they're hurting because of the high cost of living and because of the return of student loans. So FICO had found that credit scores on average, they increased every single year between 2013 and last year when they dipped. And today, FICO says there's an even bigger drop this year. As you mentioned, the biggest since 2009 during the Great Recession. Credit scores, they're still pretty high.
Guys, everybody in the YouTube chat, tell Gary that you care about him and you're sorry he's having a bad day. Gary, Orta, we're very sorry that you're having a bad day today. Okay, bud? Sorry about that, but none of us here were there. We were live streaming when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. So, Gare Bear, it's good to have you here. My dad's name's Gary, the dad that doesn't acknowledge me. So you can. I hope my dad isn't on that side, but he probably is. But everybody tell Gary how much it means to them that he's here today, and we're sorry that you're having a bad day, Gare Bear.
Moving in the wrong direction, in part because more and more Americans are falling behind on their bills. FICO says that delinquency rates are at or near the highest level since 2009 on car loans.
Sorry, Gary. Gary, it's for anybody who can't see it. Gary says your comments killed Charlie. I appreciate that, and I'm open. I'm an open-minded person. But I did listen to the investigators in Utah, and it turns out it was actually a bullet fired from a gun. Gary. So you can rule out my comments as the cause of death for Charlie Kirk. But again, thanks for being here, Gary. Sorry you're having a bad day. Over in the TikTok chat, they're sending you lots of thoughts and prayers.
Credit cards and also on personal loans as well. And Gen Z, they're under even more pressure. FICO says that credit scores for Gen Z down by the most of any age group since 2020. And part of that problem, of course, is student debt, right?
This is going to be a theme today, and I don't want to give it away too much, but like the attacks on Gen Z, they're like, Gen Z is heartless. Yeah, no shit. Yeah, no shit. They're numb. Yeah, no shit, they're numb. They're dealing with all of your problems. All they did, they were just swimming around in their dad's nuts, and then they got born in this generation, and now they're being raised in this generation where they have virtually no upward mobility. They're being crushed by student loan debt. Yeah, I kind of get why Gen Z is a little more dead inside.
Starting in February, they started to report delinquencies on student loans for the first time since COVID. And FICO has found that a record high 29% of people who have student debt have been reported as delinquent. Only 62% have actually made a recent payment. And look at this, another 9%, they could be reported delinquent soon because they have student debt, but they have not made any recent payments. And it's not just student debt, right? You think about young people also contending with the worst job market for recent college graduates in years. I talked to a 22-year-old from Orlando who told me it took him 14 months.
Shaggy D's nuts. This is on YouTube Live. We're live right now.
And hundreds of job applications before he landed a job that wasn't a scam. But he said he's not making nearly enough money to get by, let alone to chip away at his $35,000 in student debt. So he said his credit scores have taken a drastic hit. And he's not alone. FICO found that almost 2/3, 64% of Gen Z student borrowers, they rely on more debt just to get by. That's people who have student debt. They've got to rely on credit cards and buy now, pay later, and also personal loans just to pay their bills. So, John, I do think this is just more evidence of the K-shaped economy, right? Where a lot of people who have money in the market, they own their home, they're doing okay, others are not, and it just shows this disconnect where you got Wall Street, there's all this euphoria. Main Street, though, a lot of people, they're struggling.
Just to be clear, when you don't have a good credit score and your credit score drops, everything just spirals. It makes it so much harder.
It makes it even more expensive to borrow.
All right.
Here's what's going to be interesting about this economic collapse. The last economic collapse took place from 08 to 2010 is basically like the large impact. And what rose from that was the Tea Party. And the reason that the Tea Party rose out of that is because they weren't in power, even though it's very clear what caused the 2008 financial collapse. It was massive deregulation. It was the federal government's either unwillingness, laziness, or lack of staffing, and they didn't do proper oversight. It was the easing of regulation on trades and on Wall Street. And out of that came the Tea Party, who were they were the anti-billionaire class. It started with the protests on Wall Street. And that's where Tim Pool came from. That's how Tim Pool rose to prominence. And they used the younger generation's anger. And it was kind of the first time in a long time that conservatives were able to take some of that younger anger and middle-class anger and turn it into a win from them. That eventually led to Donald Trump. Well, Trump's going to be in office for this one. And I just saw a poll yesterday saying that 30% of Democrats have a favorable view of socialism. And this is the opportunity. This is where Democrats have to, one, figure it out, but two, we've got to push back hard against some of these moderate voices that are appealing to a moderate base. Moderate Democrats are going to come out and they're going to vote for the Democrat no matter what. We're going to see it with Mamdani. We even saw it in those primaries. Moderate Democrats didn't all flock to Andrew Cuomo. In fact, it was just more like wealthy people. You think that they're going to vote for the Republican? No, they're not. Those are rock solid voters. You don't need to appeal to those people. That's what Republicans got right with the Tea Party. That's how they made this radical shift. And the radical shift was the problem is we need to deregulate. All this regulation means all these banks get to have control of all this money, and we need to deregulate it so everybody has access. But all deregulation does is gives the people with money all of the power because they're already way ahead. They have all the influence, so they just deregulate what makes sense for them. What I hope is born out of this is a heavy shift towards the government providing basic needs for its people and protecting us for the future of economic collapses where people lose lives, where people that lose their job or get knocked down to part-time lose their health insurance. Where people who lose their jobs and can't get access to mental health care anymore turn to things like drugs, sometimes lose their homes, wind up on the streets, where we know what Republicans are going to do with you. We know. By the way, has Brian Kilmeade been fired yet? Brian Kilmeade been fired yet for advocating that we put unhoused people to death by involuntary lethal injection, and then a day later, 8 unhoused people were shot in a park in Minnesota? No. Oh, he hasn't been fired for that yet. There's got to be a ton of outrage though from the right, though, right? How words lead to violence. How he calls for them to do exactly what they did. It's not even on the right. They're like, you called Donald Trump a fascist and therefore you killed Charlie Kirk. That doesn't make any sense. But this one is you called for unhoused people to be put to death. And then a day later, somebody did it. We're just not going to acknowledge that. You guys, you've lost this fight. Republicans, you've lost this fight with Charlie Kirk. You're so obsessed with owning the libs and being in Donald Trump's asshole that you've completely bungled this. You guys, half your party's not even looking at the left anymore. Half your party's looking at Israel now. You completely bungled this because of the way that you're reacting. And Gary, if you're still here, it's you, man. It's you. You're bungling this. There is not a regular human being on earth who would be like, oh, this guy in the maroon hat, that's actually what killed Charlie Kirk. It doesn't make any sense, right? If this type of rhetoric leads to people losing their lives, could you explain to me why Donald Trump called Biden and Kamala fascists the entire time, and it didn't lead to attacks on them? Can you explain why, like, both the shooter of Donald Trump and the shooter of Charlie Kirk are both born and raised in conservative MAGA households? Why are we talking about indoctrination? Like, like somebody can like go online and they can learn something new, and that's indoctrination. But 20 years of living in a religious cult in a conservative environment, that's not indoctrination. Certainly is not indoctrination. Jesus is watching you always. Don't touch your wiener. Indoctrination. This kid was legitimately taught to believe that, like, if he didn't follow through on promises he made to God, he couldn't get in the highest levels of heaven. And like, if he didn't keep up with his family, they'd all be up in this higher level, and he wouldn't get to be with them forever because he beat it too many times. He didn't apologize for beating it, and he didn't give 10% of his money maybe to the church. Maybe he had a coffee every morning. That's what he was taught. Like, you cannot tell me, who came from that exact cult, I left the cult when I was 30. I'm 39 now. I'm still deconstructing from that. The idea that like the violence, this kid was taught that violence is justified. That's what his parents taught him. That's what his church taught him. That righteous violence is justified. I know where that idea came from. And it didn't come from the left saying Trump is a fascist. It came from his family from the age of 5 teaching him that violence was justified. There's literally it's a culty song, but it's like, Book of Mormon stories that my teacher told to me. I'm going to do this. This is going to be offensive as fuck, but I'm going to show you because it's Mormons. I just want to show you what I did as a kid. I apologize in advance to my indigenous friends, but I need to explain this real quick. Mormons used to, in the Book of Mormon, it used to say that the American Indians were the principal ancestors of the Lamanites. If you don't know who the Lamanites are, that's because it's made up. But the Lamanites in the Book of Mormon are Jews from Jerusalem who came over on a boat somehow, like a submarine boat. They came all the way over with a magic like lamp. Jesus taught them to make like these lamps that would stay in their boat and it would keep the boat lit. Somehow it was just like a magic finger lamp. They came over here, and Laman was one of the brothers, and Nephi was like the righteous brother. Laman and Lemuel, they were the evil brothers. So when they turned on Nephi, God gave them a curse, and that curse was dark skin. So the Book of Mormon legitimately says that the principal ancestors of the American Indians were Lamanites. And throughout my life, we had things called Lamanite placement programs. And that's where we would take indigenous people and we would place them in good white Mormon households. And we would teach them things like, if they kept the commandments, their skin, and I quote, would become white and delightsome. This is a racist cult that he was born in and raised in. A racist cult that teaches that violence is justified. I've told the story before, but like the story basically opens up with Nephi wants something of value, and he tries to trade with this guy, and this guy's like, no, and just takes his shit anyways. And then Nephi finds him drunk in the street later and chops off his head. And he didn't want to do it, but God's like, you got to do it, man. You got to do it. And he's like, fine, I'll do it. And then his family's like, good job, Nephi. You are so righteous. And then he's like the hero until he dies in that book. Okay? So then we used to sing this song that said, Book of Mormon stories that my teacher told to me. And I swear to God, we did this. All about the Lamanites in ancient history. As a kid, I sang that song in church in front of all the other Mormons, and they were like, this is beautiful. Swear to God, we did that. At 5 years old, we were doing the hand signals, and we were teaching people that indigenous people in this country and all people with dark skin had dark skin because of a curse from God. Okay? We also sang a song as kids that would go, follow the prophet, follow the prophet, follow the prophet. He knows the way. Follow the prophet, follow the prophet. Follow the prophet, don't go astray. I think those are the words. Okay? This kid was raised in a cult. He's been in a cult his whole life that justifies violence. Stop. Then you're like, oh, well, he's gay and he might have a trans partner, so that's what it is. It's crazy. The violence comes from his upbringing. That's where the justification comes from. I have that indoctrination. I've worked through that. It sucks. It's not fun. You have to unpack a lot of racism. You have to unpack a lot of misogyny, stuff I'm still unpacking today. Times it comes up, I'm like, oh, shit, that wasn't good. But I know where it came from. Okay? So we're done on this channel, at least, even entertaining the idea that this person was radicalized because they were gay. And unless you understand, like on a deeper level, how this kid was raised and what was justified in his home, like, you don't get to talk about that. You're not going to convince me that this kid wasn't radicalized his entire life. He was bred for this. Sixth Sense Amelia, thank you for the super chat. Amy Lynn said, violent crime, murder, suicide highest in conservative states. 76% of political violence comes from the right. Only 4% from the left wing. RGC said, because Texas Pete's mad about it, eat it, Texas Pete. And Jerry said, Texas Pete told me to do this. Oh, thanks, Texas Pete. Was he telling you not to send love to the host? I appreciate that. Thanks, Texas Pete. And everybody that's a Republican, every time you come in here, say that. It works out really, really well for all of us, for me and Jen. All right. Republicans are talking about this poll all day, so I wanted to look at the poll. When you hear Republicans say that there's a new poll out, J.D. Vance referenced this yesterday in his speech of why we can't unify until we all believe that Jesus is our Savior and that he was born of immaculate conception, and that until we all acknowledge that, we can't come together, which that's fucking crazy, conservatives. I'd like to, if you do want to come up and talk to me today, that's one of the things I want to talk about, is why the fuck you don't think that's crazy. The J.D. Vance yesterday said, a lot of Democrats are reaching out to me and telling me that they're sorry and they're thinking about me and praying for me. And while I want to embrace them, I can't until everybody agrees that Jesus Christ is our Savior, that he was born of immaculate conception. Pass. I'm going to say pass, but even if you believe that, that's crazy. That's fascism. It's legitimately fascism. But what he cites is a poll over and over, and he says that like 26% of young people on the left believe that political violence is justified. I wanted to see the methodology. So here's the actual polling. It is a little hard to see, and for whatever reason with Streamlabs, I can't expand my screen here, so I'm going to have to read some of it. I apologize in advance that some of this is going to be small, but I want to show you all the things that this poll covered. It says, most Americans say political violence is a very big problem or somewhat of a problem. This was as of September 10th, which I think was the day after the Charlie Kirk assassination, which obviously these are going to be skewed because people are reactionary, and you're going to see that. Because what's interesting about YouGov is they do these polls every time there's a political assassination, and what you might not be surprised to see is depending on who was assassinated, the group that person belonged to, they tend to change their views based on who the victim of the crime was. It's very telling, and it goes both ways, but it seems to not just be a problem. So this is obviously cherry-picked data, but I want you to see this. 59% of Americans say that political violence is a very big problem. 28% say it's somewhat of a problem. 7% are not sure. 5% say not very much, and 1% says not a problem. Okay, so almost everybody thinks it's like at least somewhat of a problem. 6% say not so much, and then even if we add in the 7, so 13% are either unsure or they say it's not a problem, and then the, what's that, 58, 67, 87% say that it's a problem. By party ID, it's pretty close along the lines. Again, look at this. Republicans say it's a very big problem at a rate of about 9 points higher than Democrats and about 13 points higher than independents. Broken down by age, you can see that it just gets more and more and more. Every graph that looks this way, historically, usually the people that are at the bottom, the 18 to 29-year-olds, they're usually right. Can you think of a time in this country where like we had a war or we had civil unrest when the 18 to 29-year-olds weren't right? Like the majority? They're almost always right. He's 20-year-old, so the memes, and you guys are arguing in the chat. Okay. Democrats and Republicans are more likely to say political violence is a big problem after attacks on members of their own party. So on September 10th, Democrats, 58% of Democrats, the day after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, say that it is a big problem. 67% of Republicans. Look at this shift. After the assassination of Melissa Hortman, however, Democrats stayed almost the same. In fact, Democrats moved 2 points towards it's a big problem after Charlie Kirk, but Republicans were at 44% after Melissa Hortman. They shifted 23 points when it was somebody on their side. Is it? Why is JD Vance not talking about that? That's an alarming shift in just a few months. After the assassination of Josh Shapiro, or assassination attempt, excuse me, Republicans were at 37%. By the way, this is after the attempted assassination on Trump, by the way. They've shifted back down to it's no big deal. You'll see here, after the assassination attempts on Trump, 51 and 57 respectfully. So you see either between 7 and 13% swing for Melissa Hortman. And this happened after the attempted assassinations on Trump. So even though there were 2 assassination attempts on their guy, and then after Melissa Hortman was assassinated, they asked them and it went down, how would it go down? We have 2 assassination attempts on Trump, one on Shapiro, one on Hortman, and they progressively move down. And then as soon as it's their guy, look at this. After Charlie Kirk, more Republicans are outraged and saying it's an issue with Charlie Kirk than even Donald Trump. Asked after Paul Pelosi, all-time low for the Republicans, said 31% think political violence is a problem. 53% of Democrats. So Democrats are staying within this 44 to 58% window, which is a range of 14%. Republicans have a range of 36%. And they are clearly far more biased when it comes to assassinations on their side. They don't seem to give a fuck on the other side. But did J.D. Vance include that part of the research? No, they didn't. Now, that's just general Americans. If we go younger, older Americans have been more concerned about political violence than young adults, but concern has changed in all age groups at similar rates. You can see here. Basically, it just like younger people are a little bit more indifferent. I'm going to get to that, why I think that is in a minute. Older people, obviously, are the most. These like, I guess if you see all these charts, and they're all the same, and there's this disconnect that moves up with age demographics. What this tells us is that your age and your life experience dictates your concern for these things, right? You see, like they're all moving basically in unison until I guess that drop off is for, I don't know what this drop off is for, because that's September. I don't know why they have this little like tick down. Is this, when I click on this dot, it's September. Yeah, it's this year. I don't know why that has that little trend line down. All right, now we get to how many Americans say violence can be justified. So most Americans say it's unacceptable to be happy about a public figure's death, but younger and more liberal Americans are more likely to call it acceptable. So J.D. Vance is lying again. They didn't say that that political violence is acceptable. They said being happy about it is acceptable. And now we've got a vice president inciting a war on the American people, demanding that we come together under the umbrella of Jesus, misstating what this polling says. It's about if it's unacceptable to be happy about public figures' deaths. Not about whether or not you can do violence. That's the number he's pointing at, 24. Always or usually accepted from very liberal or acceptable. I agree that it is that you are allowed to have any feeling you want after somebody's death. I'm not going to name names, but I have close friends like who, when in dealing with death, people have complicated emotions with death, including with like loved ones. I've spoken to parents who have lost like a child. And one of the hard things that for them is in this instance, a child who struggled with substance abuse, and for years was threatening to take their own life. And the parents and the siblings, like, they were always there for their sibling, and they fought till the very end to try and keep that sibling from taking their life, and trying to talk him out of it. And eventually they did. But in talking to the mother, she said one of the things that was really complicated is, like, I almost felt relief. Like, it was such a battle for him and for our family and for me that it was confusing, because I was devastated and relieved at the same time, because I knew, like, the pain of that was over. There's people who lose a parent, and perhaps their parent was abusive or not a very good parent, or perhaps that parent disowned them, and they have complicated feelings after that parent dies. That's a normal thing. Are we really saying, like, is our vice president really going to try and put us in a civil war about people, about regulating people's emotion on how they feel after a tragedy? I recognize that it can be felt, like, for the victims and those who are mourning, it sucks. Like, if you've ever had a bad day, or if you're ever mourning and somebody comes in and mocks it, that's tough. A very close friend of mine, like, we had a falling out. We've since, in fact, with what happened to Charlie Kirk, it's kind of brought us back together. But where we had a falling out was, I have this group of friends who, they're not really like Republican, but they're Republican adjacent. And after the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband, in our group chat, like, one of them was being, like, really cruel. And, like, I tried to just roll with it at first. Like, if any of you are men, you're in a group chat with conservative men, like, a lot of it is just trying to say the most shocking thing. A lot of it is not things that people really mean. They're just saying something shocking to get a laugh. But it was repetitive, and it was over and over. And I was just like, I just can't do this. Like, I'm on that side. I'm on the left. And it makes me concerned that, like, when I'm on the left, like, I don't know if you guys would care that much. Of course they would. That was me being emotional. Of course they would care if I got hurt, and I was wrong there. But since Charlie Kirk's death, he's kind of come around, because it affected him and the people around him, and he kind of recognized that, oh, maybe when somebody's close to this, we shouldn't mock it, right? So I get all of those feelings, but I just don't understand how it is that we currently, as a country, are on the verge of a civil war. And the most cited statistic by the right is this one, that 24% of people who identify as very liberal, which I don't even know what that means. I don't know if that includes, like, communists, socialists, Antifa. You could have separatist groups. I don't know what they're considering very liberal, but I'm not surprised by that. Charlie Kirk did hurt a lot of people. A lot of people are going to have really conflicting feelings, but why are we worried about that? How is this possibly a massive issue? But even then, like, if you break it down by age, like, it's not even that different. 12% of people 18 to 29, 11% of people 30 to 44, and then it goes down. And every single time, it just moves down. Moderates, 18 to 44, say it's okay. Liberals, 22%. Conservatives, 6%. I'd love to see if they ask this question. I meant to look it up. In fact, let's just look it up. I'm going to see if I can find the YouGov polling. Remind me of Melissa Hortman. Let's see if I can find one from then. That was in, like, July, right? I don't know if they asked this same question. Okay, let's see. How concerned are you about the following to the best of your knowledge? I don't see it. Jen, I'm going to send you this link. Will you see if they asked this same question? Let me drop it to you. Will you see if they asked this same question of most Americans say it's unacceptable? Or let's see. The question is, do you generally consider it to be acceptable or unacceptable for a person to be happy about the death of a public figure they oppose? I don't know if they've asked that question before, but it'd be interesting to see those numbers. All right. The other thing I wanted to bring up, when you look down this line, when you look down the ages and you look by political ideology, I am not surprised that people on the left are a little bit more indifferent than people on the right to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, or that they have different feelings. And specifically this generation of 18 to 29. If you're 65 plus, that means you're born, what, 1960-ish? 1960 and before that, you've seen Vietnam, you've seen Desert Storm, you've seen Iran-Contra, you've seen, obviously, I might have said Desert Storm already, Iraq, Afghanistan, you've seen September 11th, you've seen the Oklahoma City bombing, you've seen the Waco bombing, you've seen the assassination attempts on Gabby Gifford. And so every time you see it, like you have this history of connection, like an emotional connection to all of those moments. And that weighs on you. And when you've seen it that many times, you want it to stop. When we're talking about people between 18 and 29 and 30 to 44, these are the people that are perpetually more online and more likely to be on the left. If you're like me and you're online and you're on the left, and you're going to follow left-leaning news organizations, every single day you see a child assassinated. Every single day you see a child who is starved to death. And you see one half of this country politically, probably a little more because you got to include some Democrats there too, just not giving a single solitary fuck. In fact, painting the perpetrators of this violence as the good guys and our allies. They saw January 6th. And they saw the president pardon those violent criminals. Of course they're going to think this. Of course. I'm sorry. I don't know why Charlie Kirk being assassinated, which is wrong, should invoke such a strong emotion for me that like outweighs the emotion I feel when I see children. In fact, like Charlie Kirk's a grown-up who went into the public place. He called himself a firebrand. He knew he would rile people up. He wasn't super careful with his words. He knew he had enemies. He went out there. These kids that I see assassinated and hit with snipers or by snipers in Gaza, they didn't do anything. Those victims at the hospital and those first responders that got hit with the double tap bomb, they didn't do anything. So it should not be surprising to anybody that we've been watching a genocide unfold, and you can watch it on your phone. You can watch it happen on your phone. I don't think people should be surprised that the people who have been advocating for these children and these families and these human beings in Gaza who are being treated as if they are cattle. People don't treat their cattle like that. I take it back. I don't even know what you would call it. Almost like a disease they need to eradicate. If you want us to have a heart about that, and you think that we're evil because some people on the left who were affected by Charlie Kirk were happy about it, I've got questions for you. I've got questions for the people that in Congress that keep going over to Israel, that write things on bombs after October 7th, that write messages. That I got questions for the president who's like, yeah, we're going to wipe it out. I've got questions for Randy Fine who's like, we need to eradicate. I mean, how many elected Republicans are cheerleading a genocide in Gaza? I understand that Charlie Kirk was something to you folks and that it feels personal. Charlie Kirk was nothing to a lot of folks, and to a lot of folks, he was nothing but an agitator. And we're saying that we need to value the life of Charlie Kirk more than we value the life of these children in Gaza? I don't think so. And the solution from our obvious desperate fascist J.D. Vance is that we have to now all be religious. That we have to force people to be religious, because that's really the problem. The problem is religion. Explain to me how cheerleading a genocide, that's totally Christian. But somebody saying I'm happy that Charlie Kirk was shot, like, that's a problem. I get it. And I don't know why we have to pretend that we all don't get this. Everybody gets this. I understand you're upset about Charlie Kirk. You want us to be upset. It's frustrating to you that we're not as upset as you are. That's how we feel about Gaza. That's how I feel after every single show. Every single show I do, at the end of it, I feel, fuck. I can't believe people still think this. I can't believe people are this cruel. I can't believe people are still like demonizing trans people for their problems, blaming immigrants for their problems. I can't believe in this country we have hashtags trending like black fatigue. Those are amplified by right-wing voices. I'm just saying, like, you don't get to come in here after years, as long as I've been doing this, showing up in these lives and saying the worst things imaginable, and openly mocking death, openly mocking Paul Pelosi, openly mocking the Hortmans, and then when Charlie Kirk dies, you're like, how? What? You heartless bastards! Nah, people can feel however the fuck they want. And if you are a person who's saying that J.D. Vance is correct, then you're a person who now believes that our federal government gets to police feelings, and that having a feeling should be against the law. And good luck getting away from the term fascism with shit like that. I'm not going to stop saying fascist, by the way. I'm not. I don't think that that's what got Charlie Kirk killed. But even if that was the motive behind the shooter, which, look, it doesn't seem like that's the motive. No, not one person in his life, including the alleged text messages between him and his partner, talk about fascism. They talk about his cruelty and his bigotry. It wasn't about fascism. There's no evidence that the Butler shooter targeted Trump because somebody called him a fascist. There is some evidence that the guy who was caught before he attempted to assassinate Trump thought Trump was a fascist. But like people, there are people who are killed in this country all the time for being gay. There are people who are beaten, killed, raped because they are trans, solely because they lose their jobs. People don't trust them around their children despite them not doing anything, just simply for existing. I hope that Democrats who have viewed their actions, and maybe some may want to tone down the rhetoric, and I applaud that. I always applaud anybody who says, like, let's bring it together. But we're not going to sit here and pretend that there aren't other people who are attacked all the time. White Christian men, you are not under attack. Okay, none of you even have a microphone to do what Charlie Kirk did. And if Charlie Kirk didn't have the platform that he had, nothing would have happened to Charlie Kirk. Nobody would have even known who Charlie Kirk was. There are many millions of people in this world and hundreds of thousands in this country that are far more openly racist and bigoted than Charlie Kirk. There are far more people who direct action against members of marginalized communities more than Charlie Kirk, and those people are still alive. J.D. Vance, this guy who's saying tone it down, he was one of the most prominent people in politics to call Donald Trump a fascist and Hitler. I've never called him Hitler, ever, because he's not. Because I do recognize that by calling some, and I think that you shouldn't call Trump Hitler because it's not true. Not because there's not parallels. What I think you should call Trump is an authoritarian and a fascist, because that is true. I don't know if he's listening today, and I don't think he would care, but I talked to my brother who I've been a little estranged from my family for the last year or so, just like while we let like things cool off. Not a hatred thing. But I talked to him yesterday because during the show yesterday, he said, he texted me, he said, what the fuck is Project 2025? I was like, I'll call you later. So I called him. I told him where to find Project 2025. He's like, wait a minute, you can just get this? It's public? I was like, yeah, just go to Heritage website. You can read it. And then we started talking about fascism. And I brought up that I thought Donald Trump was a fascist. And he brought up that, like, oh, well, every government tries to silence speech in some way. And that's what fascism is. And I think that that's most Republicans' understanding of what fascism is if you're trying to silence speech, which is why anytime you bring up fascism, they're like, but what about Joe Biden and Facebook? What about the Twitter files? Well, that's not fascism. So we went point by point in the 7 tenets of fascism. And my brother, who I didn't know, I had always assumed he voted for Trump, told me, he's like, I didn't vote for Trump. He actually wrote my name in, which was kind of nice. I appreciated that. I got a vote for president. But when we went through the 7 tenets, and with the understanding that, like, you have to meet all 7 tenets in order to be a fascist, it was clear that that's what he was. By every definition, Donald Trump is fascist. And we'll go through that real quick, just so that the Republicans that are here, at the very least, you know what I'm saying here. That I'm not just there's some other 7 tenets of Satan. There's a lot of 7 tenets. This one's the most simple. I think the 14 tenets are a little more descriptive, and I would rely more on those. But actually, here they are, the 16. Powerful, often exclusionary, populist nationalism centered on cult of redemptive, infallible leader who never makes mistakes. That's Donald Trump. A savior. Political power derived from questioning reality, endorsing myth and rage, and promoting lies. The election was stolen. Barack Obama was born in Kenya. Hillary Clinton is running a child sex trafficking ring. Joe Biden runs a massive crime family. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs, which I forgot. I'd kind of forgotten about that. And then I saw somebody tweet it. And so I'm going to, is this it? I think it's the song.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat.
Yeah, he does that. That's all he lies consistently. His entire message is a lie. Fixation with perceived national decline, humiliation, or victimhood. Good Lord, have you guys shown us how good you are at being victims. Every day, multiple times a day, my congressman, Andy Biggs, puts up some dog shit tweet about how he's such a victim, including this one from today. Look at what Andy Biggs is upset about today. This is a 6-second clip. You just tell me what he's upset about.
Politicizing the murder of Charlie King to go after free speech is not a legacy I believe Charlie King would have wanted.
Look at Andy Biggs. Disgraceful. Jerry Nadler, one of the highest ranking Democrats on the Judiciary Committee, just referred to Charlie Kirk as Charlie King twice. Professional victims. Shut the fuck up. Remember Tim Apple? Jerry Nadler's 864 years old. The fact that he got Charlie right should be celebrated. The fact that he got one part of his name right should be celebrated. He's a fossil. White replacement theory, used to show that democratic ideals of freedom and equality are a threat. Oppose any initiatives or institutions that are racially, ethically, or religiously harmonious. Facts. What did they just do yesterday? Oh, yeah, they said at all the national parks they had to take down any mention of slavery. That's a real thing our administration just did. They're coming to replace you. They're stealing your jobs. They're taking your children. They're killing our culture. That sound familiar to anybody else? The Jews, they're replacing our culture. They're taking our jobs. They're taking our money. They're bringing in their metropolitan ideas. They're accepting of different sexualities. Sounds exactly the same. Disdain for human rights while seeking purity and cleansing for those they define as part of the nation. No, we don't do trans rights here. We don't do LGBTQ rights. We don't give rights to immigrants here. We don't. The Palestinian people don't have the right to live. Identification of enemies and scapegoats is a unifying cause. The entire campaign was literally just pointing at enemies, and you guys all going, "Yeah, they're the bad ones. Yeah, they're the bad ones. Yeah, they're the bad ones." And for those that are following along that are right-leaning at home, please understand that I understand you could take any one of these and you could probably apply it to a leader on the left. But what makes Trump a fascist is that he's all of these, right? Fascism itself is hard to define. The only way you can define fascism is by taking what fascists in history all had in common. Fascism derives from the fascisti, which were Mussolini's followers. They were the original fascists. And so the fascisti were different than the Nazis, but what made them similar? That's like when scholars make these lists, that's how they make the list. They say, what do they all have in common? Supremacy of the military and embrace of paramilitarism in an uneasy but effective collaboration with traditional elites. This is crazy. Okay. It's the Department of War now. They talk about we got to be war ready. We have to be elite. We have to be the greatest fighting force on the world. Oh, and by the way, Peter Thiel, come on in. Palantir, come on in. Elon Musk, come on in. All the billionaires, come on in. OpenAI, come on in. Facebook, come on in. We're going to involve all of you guys, and we're going to collaborate. We're going to give you military contracts. You will now work in collaboration with the military. Think Ralph Lauren. That's who. Is it Ralph Lauren? Is that who did the Nazi uniforms? I don't want to fuck that up. Was it Ralph Lauren or was it somebody else? Think of Mercedes. Think of Volkswagen. Was it Ralph Lauren? You guys know? I don't think it was Tommy Hill. Hugo Boss. Hugo Boss. Thanks. It shows how much I know about fashion. Not a thing. Hugo Boss. Thank you. I knew it sounded wrong when I said Ralph Lauren. Rampant sexism. Do we even need to talk about that? Like, do we even need to talk about rampant sexism? She was so mad I could see blood coming from her eyes, from her ears, from her you-know-where. Donald Trump, a serial sex pest. Control of mass media and undermining truth. He's suing every news organization that reports against him. And he's now, by undermining truth, he's taking their reporting and he is saying that by the very fact that they report it, it is not true. We see this every single day. Every time I play a clip that has CNN on it, you guys all go, CNN. It's a knee-jerk reaction. You can't help it. MSNBC, MSDNC, Communist News Network. It's a knee-jerk reaction. They have literally programmed you to have a repulsive feeling anytime somebody reports negatively about Donald Trump. And what none of you ever do is follow it. Be like, is this true or not? It's a knee-jerk reaction. It's not true. If we go over why it's true, you're like, well, I don't trust it because it's from CNN, therefore I don't have to believe it. Obsession with national security, crime, and punishment, fostering a sense of the nation under attack. Good Lord, we are literally in the most peaceful time in American history as far as like violent crime rates. And well, in the last, let's say in the last 50 years, sorry, maybe not in history. And yet we're being told that our nation is under attack. That we're talking about using the National Guard everywhere. We're talking about like changing the punishment for crimes. We love it. We're throwing people in concentration camps. Religion and government are intertwined. That's a big one. And until yesterday, that was a harder one to convince people of. But if you're not convinced today that Catholic orthodoxy right now is what our government is saying we must unify under, I don't know what you're watching. They're attacking other Christian religions. They attacked the Mormons yesterday. They're going after evangelicalism. They're going after the Catholic Church in general because the Catholic Church is too woke. You have to go back to Orthodox Catholic Church, back when women didn't have rights. That's what J.D. Vance, that's the organization J.D. Vance is a member of. And you can say that you can separate your religion and your politics, but yesterday J.D. Vance, or I guess it was the day before we played it yesterday, J.D. Vance said, hey guys, if you were wondering if I'm going to separate religion and politics, the answer is no. In fact, we are going to use the military and law enforcement against you until you accept our religion. That's what he just said. Corporate power is protected and labor power is suppressed. Dude. All the richest people in the world, in the country, are getting like carve outs. Labor, no help for labor. In fact, they're demonizing unions, the way that labor can collectively bargain. They refuse to move the minimum wage. There is no power for the labor. That was the whole point. That's what you guys loved about free market. It's ironic that you're like, I love free market capitalism. I love freedom. But then you advocate for a system that you don't own your own labor in. In fact, a lot of you seem to think that like people own too much of their labor and they should just be grateful that somebody is giving them anything for their labor. That seems to be like you guys have become complete lemmings to the billionaire class. And this is why, like, I do think it's important that when we use the word fascist, we use it correctly and we make people understand what we're saying. Because I think this is a problem on the left, too. A lot of times we say Trump's a fascist, and then they say, what do you mean he's a fascist? And they're like, well, he's trying to quell free speech. I don't think this is a right or left issue where people don't understand what fascism is. It's clearly defined, very clearly defined. Here it is. Disdain for intellectuals and the arts not aligned with the fascist narrative. Trump yesterday, smart people don't like me. They're going after all of our institutions. So we literally have RFK Jr. out there saying science is bad. Let's not. We should do the opposite of whatever the science says. Rampant cronyism and corruption. Good Lord, Trump's made $10 billion. He's given handouts to his buddies. He's forcing other countries to invest in his friends' businesses. $2 billion his sons just got from the Qataris in exchange for Trump using one of the other corporate interests that he controls, NVIDIA, using them as leverage so that his kids can get $2 billion. Cool. Fraudulent elections, the creation of a one-party state. Look, I'm more and more convinced every day that the elections in 2024 were fraudulent. However, I will say we do not have definitive proof yet, and I would ask you, Republicans, to join me in asking for an audit in 2024. I doubt you'll do it. Creating a one-party state. Republican states are literally, as we speak, creating one-party states. And now the Democrats are being forced to follow through. So now we're going to have we're going to have one-party states in virtually every state in this country. Whoever controls the legislature controls the entire state. Often seeking to expand territory through armed conflict, Greenland, Venezuela, Panama, Gaza. Guys, we're getting Gaza. The United States gets Gaza through armed conflict. We will expand our territory through armed conflict. Trump hits all 16, and you don't have to make a stretch on any of them. Donald Trump is a fascist. J.D. Vance is a fascist. If you believe if you're on board with the things that they're saying, you also are a fascist. That doesn't mean that you will commit a Holocaust or something like the Holocaust. It just means that you're fascist. Not all fascist regimes end in a genocide. Most of them have a lot of death. And I say this knowing that the very fact that I'm saying the word fascist is putting a target on my back. It's going to throttle what I say online. You can go look at our views just from yesterday and today. We'll see, or yesterday and the day before, we'll see we're way low on viewers. It's clear that we're being throttled. And I think that is just YouTube, TikTok, all these people protecting themselves from an authoritarian government right now. I wish they were a little stronger, but they're not. They're afraid of our government, and that's why they're throttling this stuff. Danielle said, how many people participated in that poll? I don't know. I don't know if Jen found it. Stephanie said, can I send money to your P.O. box? Yeah, I think so. Marianne, thanks for the super chat. I got 6 cents. Amelia. If there's any thoughts on anything we said here, you can super chat that or the other ways to do it. I'm trying to keep our audience on TikTok so that we don't get shut down. Hey, Jen.
Did you? It looks like most of the polls were done after what happened with Kirk. So I didn't.
But the one I sent you, it just didn't show that specific question?
That one had like 50-something pages, and I couldn't find one done like that after Hortman's. But I don't know if you read there's been Venmos. I don't know if you saw those.
I'm going to do them right now. Yeah. Okay.
I looked. I didn't see specifically that.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. Jamar said, just got $50 back due to class action lawsuit against Lexington Law and Credit Repair. Guess who got me the money? The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Yeah. I thought they just debanked people. Amanda said, happy hump day, nerds. Michelle, thank you for the blue hearts. Andrea said, you're both awesome. Keep up the great work. Melissa said, Dollar Train. Owls Era Magic said, testing the right one. If so, I just want to say thank you for everything you do, the transparency you put forth, the jovial atmosphere, and the all-around knowledge. Also would love to join Discord mods. I guess Owls, if you want to just say in whatever chat you're in, say mods, can you get me a link? Somebody will get you a link over there. Okay, I think I'm all caught up on that. Okay, we're going to move on. That was an unexpected turn. I didn't know I was going to do that today. This is more incompetence by this administration. And again, more proof of actual fascism. Check out this story.
I spoke to that contractor over there. He was called by the homeowner to repair the damage. He says both the front door and back door are busted in.
So these people in, I believe it was in Elgin, they were part of an ICE raid. ICE broke down their door, and now they're having to replace it.
Now, Secretary Kristi Noem sent out a tweet that reads in part, I was on the ground in Chicago today to make it clear we are not backing down. That post on X also included video showing several people being led away in handcuffs. We have witness video that was taken after a person describes hearing an explosion around 5:50 this morning. You can see armed.
That's a crazy question. Why do only white liberals use the word fascism? Tell me you've never listened to a black liberal without telling me you've never listened to a black liberal. Jesus Christ, man. I think you just told on yourself a little bit. I don't like liberals, but I'll listen to the whites. I'll listen to the white ones.
Officers shining flashlights at a door and into a window as well. Another neighbor told us about the response from law enforcement that came from the air.
Awakened at 20 to 6 by the drone of the helicopter flying overhead, circling the house, circling the neighborhood, spotlight on, right over the house. Very unusual in our usually quiet neighborhood.
Back out here live, people in the neighborhood are slowly filtering over here to see this damage. Everyone walking up to us wants to know what the people were taken into custody for. Well,
I just want to tell you, do you see the thing at the top? These were citizens. These are citizens. They are so, like, Kristi Noem and ICE is so incompetent. And let's be honest about who ICE is. There's enough stories coming out at this point. We know who ICE is. All these signing bonuses, these are all white nationalists. Some of the commentary coming out from that raid they did on the Hyundai factory, some of the South Koreans, they were making jokes about Rocket Man, and they're like, "Don't worry." Like, some of the guards were saying, "Don't worry, Rocket Man will come save you." Like, it's so racist that they didn't know that, like, South Korea and North Korea were different places. These are people that are racist, and they're probably doing these raids with semi-hard erections that they are convinced are fully hard erections.
According to Secretary Noem, she indicated on social media their offenses include DUI, felony stalking,
and ice blitz. Shut the fuck up. Listen to Kevin. Oh no, a citizen got detained while they were doing an ice blitz, or they were briefly detained and let go. Oh, maybe they shouldn't be hanging out with illegals. They were in their house, you dumb bitch. What the fuck are you watching right now? That's their house. There were no people in there that were illegal. None. Everybody there had legal status. This is why we have a problem, because, like, you can watch the same thing we're watching and it goes right the fuck over your head. Oh, they shouldn't have been hanging out there. Are you victim blaming? Bro, if a cop pulled you over for speeding, 100% you're the person that's like, I wasn't speeding. You would fight that tooth and nail. If a cop interrupted you in the middle of the night and woke you up, you'd be pissed. They broke down their fucking door and detained them. What are you at nighttime with guns drawn, masked agents? Well, that's the price you pay if you want to. That's the price you pay if you want to round up all the brown people. Yeah, you don't care. We care. And again, this is violence perpetrated on the American people by the government. And then you're like, why are liberals so indifferent when it comes to violence? Maybe because every time the government does something violent, you guys are like, hell yeah, hell yeah. And anytime, like, somebody you perceive as a liberal to be doing something violent, it's the worst thing that's ever happened. When Donald Trump got raided, he still doesn't shut the fuck up about this. And he wasn't even there. They came in the middle of the day. They gave a warrant to his attorney. His attorney opened up the door. They went in and they did the raid. And Donald Trump hasn't stopped complaining about that. And you guys have all adopted that victimhood. But if it's somebody that's just in their home, but it's done by Trump's administration, all of a sudden, all sorts of excuses. I don't know who needs to hear this. You are not Donald Trump. If Donald Trump gets in trouble, it doesn't affect you at all. You are not Trump. You've just adopted his life as your life. I'm assuming because your life is sad.
And assault. We know that members of a rapid response team are walking around the neighborhood trying to be on standby in case there are any more ICE arrests. I also wanted to tell you that Representative...
I'm going to cut that off because that's the end of it. Okay. Wesley Hunt played this video today, and this is or he posted this today, and this is going around in conservative, like, members of Congress are all sharing this right now because, again, they're fanning the flames. They don't want anybody to settle down. I can only assume that they're being directed to fan the flames. The last thing they want to talk about is the fact that our economy is tanking right now, that Donald Trump is profiting billions of dollars and giving out billions of dollars to his friends, gutting the American government of money so that he can pay his friends. And they don't want to talk about that. So they're all just adopting the death of Charlie Kirk like it happened to them, which again, it didn't. And it's also pathetic. It honestly is pathetic that you guys have taken one instance and decided this is what we're going to war over. But they're passing this around, says this is not a both sides problem. It never has been. Every word Joe Biden uttered was scripted by left-wing operatives with one goal: to demonize, slander, and weaponize against President Trump and silence conservative voices across America. All right. Please remember, this is in response to the death of Charlie Kirk.
The things that Donald Trump is saying and doing are genuinely a threat to the democratic process. Our democracy is at risk. Trump is tearing down the guardrails of democracy. The president is literally an existential threat to America. The MAGA Republicans don't just threaten our personal rights and economic security. They're a threat to our very democracy.
Okay. Hey, since Donald Trump has been in office, have there been attacks on our democracy? Yep. He was right. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. We are less democratic today than we were when he took office. Far less democratic. He's right about this. And secondly, you're admitting when you post this, Wesley Hunt, that you don't have a party of ideas. You have a party of Donald Trump. It is a cult of personality. Because Donald Trump didn't die, Charlie Kirk did. You're circulating a video saying that Joe Biden caused Charlie Kirk to die because he criticized Donald Trump. That is you folks admitting that your entire ideology is Donald Trump. That, by definition, makes this a cult. And it also backs up the earlier claim I made that Donald Trump is a fascist, because he is the unifying figure. And on a day when you're out here complaining and mourning Charlie Kirk, every video mentions Donald Trump. None of these videos are mentioning Charlie Kirk. You're abusing the legacy and the life of Charlie Kirk. By the way, to advocate for something that he didn't advocate for. Charlie Kirk did not believe that hate speech was a crime. Charlie Kirk wanted more hate speech. Charlie Kirk thought that if you used slurs against people, that it should not be able to be a crime, that you shouldn't be able to use that as justification for like a harassment lawsuit. That was Charlie Kirk's belief. So you guys are honoring his memory by doing the exact opposite of what he advocated for, and then making Donald Trump the victim again, and centering Donald Trump. I don't think any of you give a fuck about Charlie Kirk. It seems to me, actually, that some of us cared. Like, I didn't like Charlie Kirk. I dedicated 7 hours talking about Charlie Kirk. I didn't bring up Donald Trump one fucking time. Not once. We focused on Charlie Kirk. Any clip I've shown since this has been Charlie Kirk's words. I haven't taken his words out of context. I've just shown Charlie Kirk's words. Why are we talking about Donald Trump right now? Why is Wesley Hunt and the rest of the Republican Party right now using this moment where Charlie Kirk died to talk about how unfair it was that Joe Biden called Trump a fascist?
Democracy was attacked. The will of the people was under assault. Our Constitution faced the gravest of threats. But this is a guy who does everything to separate and frighten people. We can't ignore the impact. It's damaging, it's corrosive, and it's destructive. He embraces dictators like Kim Jong-un, who's a damn murderer and a thug. We must vote knowing what's at stake. This MAGA threat is a threat to the brick and mortar of our democratic institutions. But it's also a threat to the character of our nation. Democracy doesn't happen by accident. We have to defend it, fight for it. That literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms. For the last few years, our democracy has been threatened and attacked, put at risk, put to the test. The threat to this nation, to our democracy, is real. Tyrants and dictators all over the world are using the same language.
What, in your view, constitutes the primary threat to freedom and democracy?
I wouldn't be posting this. This is just proof that Biden got it right. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. He's threatening democracy now. Somebody said, give me the quote of Charlie Kirk. Here's the quote from Charlie Kirk. And you're gonna have to look this up because I didn't know it. I should have had it ready because I should have known that one of you guys would be like, "Where's the source?" But here's the exact quote: "Hate speech does not exist legally in America. There's ugly speech, there's gross speech, there's evil speech, and all of it is protected by the First Amendment. Keep America free." That's Charlie Kirk's words, and I agree. I agree with him. When people mocked Pelosi's husband for being hit with a hammer, it was gross. It deserves criticism, but the criticism should be the speech is gross, not you can't say that. And you guys are going on this rampage right now of you can't say that. We're going to make it illegal for you to say that. What's up, Jen?
Okay. Dolphin found the tweet, the messages. I dropped it on James if you want.
Okay. 6 Cents Amelia said definition of dictator 2, please. I haven't even looked at that. Let's see. Dictator definition. A ruler with total power over a country, typically one who has obtained control by force, or a person who behaves in an autocratic way. I don't know if those are the definitions you were looking for. Let's see. Oh, is that the clip or that's just the quote? That's not him saying it. That's what I just read. But if you want to, yeah. I guess, it's from a tweet.